In a village nestled between lush green fields and narrow dirt paths lived an old woman named Amira. She was nearly 80, with silver hair neatly tied in a bun and a smile that seemed untouched by time or sorrow. Her mud brick home stood quietly beneath a large banyan tree, its branches spreading so wide that half the lane rested in its shade by noon. Everyone in the village called her Auntie Amira, from the smallest children who ran barefoot past her door, to the elders who sat with her in the evenings, to the shopkeepers who saved her the last bundle of spinach without being asked. Inside her home, there were only the essentials: 2 earthen water jars, a single hearth for cooking, and a wooden bed in the corner that creaked with every breeze. A row of clay pots lined the windowsill, each one holding a different herb she had grown herself. She lived alone. Her husband had passed away 3 decades ago, and her only daughter had gone to the city in search of work and never returned. Every morning, before the sun fully rose, Auntie Amira would sweep the small courtyard in front of her home, scatter grain for the sparrows, and sit for a while listening to the world wake up around her. The villagers often whispered, "Oh, Auntie Amira, alone, forgotten, and yet she smiles as if she carries no burden at all. How does a woman with nothing seem to have everything?" That summer, Ria, a 20-year-old girl from Delhi, arrived in the village to visit her grandmother, hoping the quiet air and open fields might loosen the weight sitting on her chest. But Ria was broken from within. She had failed her engineering entrance exam after 2 years of relentless preparation. Her closest friend, the one she had trusted with every secret, had betrayed her behind her back. And her parents, unaware of how deeply their words cut, constantly compared her to cousins and neighbors who seemed to be doing better. Every evening, she sat alone on her grandmother's rooftop, defeated and numb, staring at the same stretch of sky, silently asking, "Why is life so unfair to me? Why does everyone else seem to move forward while I stay stuck?" Her grandmother tried to comfort her, but Ria's silence had grown too heavy for words alone to lift. One morning, as Ria walked past the banyan tree on her way back from her grandmother's house, she saw Auntie Amira feeding leftover rice to the birds and softly humming an old melody. Her eyes sparkled with peace, and she smiled at every passerby, even those who ignored her. Intrigued, Ria observed this routine for days. Finally, one quiet evening, unable to hold back her curiosity, Ria approached her. "Auntie, may I sit with you for a while?" she asked hesitantly. Auntie Amira's face brightened. "Of course, dear, the banyan gives the coolest shade at this hour." They sat quietly for a moment, then Ria spoke. "Auntie, you have no one. You've endured so much, yet you smile as if your heart has never shattered. How?" Amira chuckled softly. "Ah, child, I was not born with this smile. It came after many storms. Would you like to hear my story?" Ria nodded, her eyes wide, pulling her knees up to her chest as she settled in to listen, the way she used to listen to bedtime stories as a child. "When I was your age, I married a kind man. We had nothing except love. Our daughter was our happiness, but destiny has its own plans. One winter, my husband fell sick, there was no clinic nearby, and I had no money for treatment. He died in my arms, whispering, 'Stay strong, Amira.' I wanted to die with him, but I lived for my child. I cleaned houses, washed clothes, and even begged at times just to feed her and send her to school. Years passed. She found a job in the city and left. I waited for her letters, her calls, but they slowly stopped. She married and perhaps forgot that I exist." Ria gasped. "You never went to find her?" "I did once," Amira said, her eyes distant. She had a new life, a family. I stood across the road from her apartment and walked away. Sometimes love means letting go with dignity. Tears filled Ria's eyes. "But don't you feel angry, lonely, betrayed?" Amira smiled again, that same peaceful smile. "I did, until I discovered 3 truths that saved me. Let me share them with you." She gently raised her fingers. 1. Accept what you cannot change. I cannot force my daughter to remember me, but I can choose not to let bitterness consume me. I chose peace over pain. 2. Be grateful for what you have. I may not have wealth, but I have these birds, this tree, the open sky, and a heart that still feels. Gratitude is not for the rich, it is for the aware. 3. Give more than you take. I feed birds, help children with their studies, and share herbs with the sick. Giving makes me feel alive, as if I still matter." Ria sat quietly, as though the tight knots in her chest were slowly loosening. The sun dipped behind the trees. Birds fluttered home. And for the first time in weeks, Ria smiled. "Auntie, thank you," she whispered, holding Amira's hand. "You healed something inside me tonight." That night, the two sat beneath the stars, sharing stories, laughter, and even tears. When Ria returned to Delhi, her struggles still existed, but something within her had shifted. She began each day with a small prayer of gratitude. She stopped chasing those who walked away and started helping people who silently suffered just as she once had. True happiness is not the absence of pain, but the presence of purpose. Life will never be free of sorrow, loss, or disappointment, but we always have a choice in how we respond. Auntie Amira's story teaches us that peace is not gifted by perfect circumstances. It is built slowly through acceptance of what cannot be changed, gratitude for what remains, and kindness shared with others even when we are hurting. We often wait for life to improve before allowing ourselves to smile, but sometimes life improves because we choose to smile in quiet moments, in simple acts of giving, and in the strength to let go without bitterness. We discover a kind of joy that no situation can steal. Years later, when people in the village asked Ria what had changed her, she would smile the same quiet smile Auntie Amira once wore and say, "I met a woman under a banyan tree who had lost everything and still had enough left over to give." She would tell them about the birds, the herbs, the three truths, and the evening that taught her more than any classroom ever had. Not every wound needs to be healed by someone who shares your blood. Sometimes healing comes from a stranger who becomes family in a single conversation. An auntie who was never really a stranger at all, only someone the world had not yet introduced you to. Choose that joy, not because life is easy, but because your heart deserves peace. If Auntie Amira's story gave you even a little peace today, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's carrying a heavy heart. Thank you for watching.